So again, I'm new to this, but I think we're live. I apologize for my, I thought this would be a simpler text-based thing, and so I'm learning how to work a story on Instagram. From how I'm seeing this, let's see. So people are waving, that's nice. I apologize for my my incompetence with this, but we'll see what happens. I'm a professor of natural sciences and mathematics at the College of General Studies at BU, and the purpose of this was to have a Q&A with me around baseball topics. I do research in baseball analytics, and I spent a lot of time studying baseball as a game and modeling the game. Taught various courses on baseball analytics and player development in baseball. Taught courses to various students on the physics of baseball, sometimes the biology of baseball. So, hello everyone. Now I'm not sure what to do next. So we'll see what's happening. Let's see if there's all these various buttons here. And I think one is question for Q&A. So, let's do it this way. I'm going to tap on a question. Okay. Here's the question from Bailey. What is your position on the recent debates regarding the unwritten rules of baseball? Well, I tilt towards enjoying the game. I tilt towards having players express that joy of accomplishing things in a game that is so hard to do. So if a pitcher has a great pitch and on a very important play in a game, let them celebrate. If a batter has a great play or a fielder has a great play, let them celebrate. So these unwritten rules where you have to keep your head down and moving around, don't worry about those rules. I'm in favor of letting the players play. Let the kids play. So that's my opinion. Others disagree. A lot of my gray-haired colleagues who are a little bit older, who are fans of the game, they think that there should be the old unwritten rules where you can't celebrate. And I'll always remember one of the more significant events happened to be with a player who's playing very well lately. His name is Freddie Freeman of the Braves. And at one point, he was sort of the baseball police of the unwritten rules. A player on the Tampa Bay Rays knocked a home run against the Braves, and he kind of paused at the plate, celebrated that some old school fans don't like. Freddie Freeman started yelling at him, like stopped him in his run around the bases because of the home run. I disagreed completely with what Freddie Freeman did. And Freddie Freeman's a great player, but I wish Freddie Freeman would acknowledge now that maybe he is a little bit more loose on the unwritten rules, like I am, like a lot of people are. Good question, Bailey, thanks. Let's go to some other questions. What exactly is drawing the line? Why is it such a big issue? Isaac, I think I need more info. I'm not sure what you mean by drawing the line. Is that around the questions of unwritten rules, like what's possible, what's not? So I'll pause there and maybe we can have more clarity on what you mean, Isaac. Thanks for the question, though. All right, so more questions. My favorite baseball team of all time. At various times, my favorite team has been the Mets, the White Sox, the Red Sox, and so it's changed over time. I'd say right now the team that I celebrated most was the Red Sox when they won. It was such an important win in 2004 that I'll never forget how I felt at that time. So that was the most joyous event around a team winning a World Series. But I'd have to say I'm pretty equal in my baseball fandom in a way. I love all teams, and part of that is because as I've worked for Major League Baseball the past 11 years as a part-time data person for the league, I've just sort of become less and less a major fan of one team. If you push and shove, I'd say Red Sox are my number one team, but the gap between 1 and 2 and 30 is smaller and smaller all the time. But so right now I'm a huge Dodgers fan. I have 3 players, former students of mine, who work for the Dodgers, and I root for my former students. I have students scattered across Major League Baseball, and I root for all those teams pretty well because I want to see my students succeed and get a World Series ring and be happy about that. So all-time favorite team, Red Sox, mainly because 2004 was such a celebration for me and my family and friends who loved the Red Sox at the time. But I'm much more of an equal baseball fan these days. Thanks for the question. Yeah, the Marlins are a good team. They really demonstrated that. They had a strong team. They emerged to the right lineup of hitters, and they certainly had great success with Sixto Sanchez and Alcantara and Pablo. Their starting pitching was outstanding. So a full season they might have done well. The Atlanta Braves are a pretty good team, though. They have almost the same strength in starting pitching as the Marlins do, and it turns out they have a much better hitting team than the Marlins. So they would have had a tough shot beating the Braves. Braves were a good team, and the Marlins though have a great future. So many of their players are young and emerging. So I like how the Marlins might fare in the next 5 years. I think they'll emerge as one of the stronger teams. So yeah, that's what I think about the Marlins. They had a rough bump into their playoff run, but they're a promising team. I look forward to what they're going to be doing in the future. Another question: how do you get in contact with me? My email. My email is landres@bu.edu. Email me and we'll start a conversation. One of the privileges of working as a baseball instructor on the analytics side is I've been fortunate to be in touch with lots of students all over the world around how to emerge into this field, how to learn more things. And so I really appreciate anybody emailing me, and we try to start a dialogue on how I can help them. Good question. Thank you, Cohen.34. And if the .34 relates to David Ortiz, I see the Citgo sign in your little avatar. Yes, our family is a huge David Ortiz fan. We loved that player and loved watching when he played, and we named our puppy Poppy after David Ortiz. So maybe there's a connection there. But just email me with that email address, landres@bu.edu. Thanks. Another question. This is a great question. So relative to COVID-19, certainly they had a shortened season. And the question is, do you think any of the rule changes this season are going to be permanent going forward? I think one is going to be permanent. All of them are up in the air, of course. There's nothing definitive. But I think everyone around baseball likes the 28-man roster. So I think that's going to be going forward. That's going to be much likely. I think also, strangely, there was a lot of old school criticism of the extra innings rule, where you had started a runner on second base every half inning after the ninth, or the seventh in a 7-inning game. And I think people liked it. I think fans liked it. I think the teams liked it because it got the game over quicker. I think it added another element of excitement. So I have a feeling that rule, it might stick. The playoff, there's a huge pressure to keep the playoffs like they are, and that's financial, okay? One of the ways teams recovered money this year was at expanding the number of teams in the playoffs. And I think there's going to be pressure to keep that. But what it does, in my view, is discount winning a division. Winning a division is less important in this format. In the previous years, winning the division had a real impact on your playoff positioning. This year, much less so. So as someone who really liked competitiveness through the whole season to win your division, I kind of like the old format better. And some people agree with me, it increases the competitiveness. But certainly there's a huge pressure to keep the current playoff format for financial reasons. So, I don't know how to predict that. I think because of financial reasons, it's likely to stay because it'll increase revenue for all 30 teams. So if there's other specific rules you want me to comment on, I'll be glad to, because it really is interesting. Because of COVID-19, they changed a lot of rules, and some of them actually, I think people around the game, fans, players, owners, people like them. So we'll see, though. It'll all come out in the wash over the off season. So great question, Chelsea. Great question. Okay. So here's another question by Chelsea. I think I addressed this about the expansion, and my personal thought would be to go back to 5 teams making the playoffs in each league as opposed to 8, and that's because I think it increases the season-long competitiveness. So that's my view. But like I said, there's huge financial pressure to keep the 8 teams in the playoffs because it increases revenue. Good question. Thanks. Here's another. Should stats in a 60-game season count against stats in a longer 162 in a season 100 games longer? Certainly. I mean, everyone will understand counting stats, the stats that accumulate like number of home runs, number of RBI, number of runs scored, number of hits. Those stats will always be sort of understood as being discounted, but this isn't the first season over the history of baseball that they have had a shortened season. There's been seasons with much lower games because of strikes, player strikes, where they had to cut the number of games played. And those seasons have worked out fine in terms of analytics, in terms of the fans understanding who was the home run leader. I think that'll be the same this year. People will understand the stats. Now, a lot of stats are what's called rate stats. In other words, they're for every plate appearance. They measure a batter's performance. And so those rate stats are fine this year too. For every plate appearance or every pitch even, you can start talking about certain pitches and their effectiveness, and you can get metrics based on that. And you can see that's all still possible. There'll be no if you're the batting leader this year and the home run leader this year, you were the batting leader, and you're the home run leader. So that'll be interesting, maybe in terms of how you look at MVP choices or Cy Young choices, but those have been shifting in the past decade or so. So I think that shift's going to continue. I don't think it will have much effect, the fact that we have a short season here on a lot of things going on. So great question again. Thank you. Let's go backwards. Oh, here's something I don't know anything about. Is the Bay State CGS housing available for CGS freshmen? I actually don't know that. I think it is. I mean, I've given talks at the Gilbane House at CGS, and I don't think it was just sophomores, but I'm not sure. I really don't know the answer. I hope it's possible, but we'll see. Someone smarter than me in the office downstairs at CGS will know the answer to that. Sorry, Vivian, I can't help you. I don't know the answer. Good question, though. Thank you. So another question here. How is the season impacting stats that players rely on when negotiating contracts? Yeah, I think everybody is able to relate the counting stats, like, things that impact contracts, obviously, are, the number of home runs somebody hits, the number of runs somebody scores. So those things will just have to be, related to a 60-game season, and that'll be fine. It won't, the best players this year will still likely improve their salaries next year, and the players who had a more challenging time this year will probably have their salaries that are getting renegotiated affected as well. I think it's sort of very standard as in years past. In other words, the players looking for increases in salary will get them. Now, the one effect that may impact things, the one true effect, is if you're a free agent. Now, free agents are experienced players. They've been in the league 6 years of playing time at least. That's how they qualify for free agency. Those players may find less of a market. Less teams might be willing to spend extra money on players. Talent will be acquired, though. Okay, one of the classic examples, and he's such a good player, is DJ LeMahieu of the Yankees. He plays all over the infield, but mostly second base. And he is such a good hitter and such a good defender. And I think reports are he's just a great teammate. That guy is talented, and teams want to acquire him. He may not get the extra 10 or 20 million that teams might have if they've made, I don't know, if they've made a lot of money over the years. But DJ LeMahieu will get paid because he's so talented. So talent is still going to win. If you've demonstrated baseball skill, somebody's going to hire you and put you on their team, because at the end of the day, I'd say most teams are really dying to compete and to win the World Series. And so that means they're going to look at the free agent pool and they're going to try to acquire that talent, as best as they can within their own budgetary considerations. The budgetary considerations might be different this year. There wasn't as much revenue acquired this year as there was in years past from the teams. And, they had less expenses too. So I'm not sure of the bottom line of the teams, how they've done. I suspect some of them have done pretty well because of local TV and radio contracts and just revenue from, there's revenue from selling merchandise that goes to all teams. There's revenue from the website and its traffic, which is so significant to baseball teams now. And there's revenue from MLB TV, MLB Network. I mean, these are all revenue producing things that are going to help, in the revenue loss of fans in the stands. So that revenue loss is real. It's going to impact impact revenue. Teams probably are doing okay, though, with this season, just not as okay as it has been in the past. That's going to affect free agency for sure. Good question. I appreciate the question. Let's see. So another one here from, do you see baseball continuing with the current playoff format or going back to the my opinion is I prefer the pre-COVID playoff format, but I might even be in the minority with that. But there's such pressure to increase revenue during the playoffs, that they might keep this system. I think what they're finding is people are watching now, watching through the various ways on TBS, ESPN, MLB Network. They're watching these playoffs, and I think they're happy with that. And so there's a real pressure to keep this playoff format. But we'll see. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussions, and the people at MLB in New York, the people who run the league, I'm sure they're going to consider this very carefully and have a lot of discussions about this. But just on the competitiveness side, I really do like the idea of a competition for the division winner throughout this long season, 162 games. So we'll see. I like the old format, though, just personally. Yeah. Great questions again. So another one here. With no fans permitted in the stadiums this season, that's right. We discussed this briefly, but the league is set to lose revenue. How will this impact free agency? Well, it's certainly going to impact free agency in particular, because less revenue means less ability, less extra spending they might have. But when the teams go back to 162 games with fans in the stands, which it's not a guarantee that's 2021. Okay, we all should just be aware of that. They'll probably roll out something like they're going to do in these next two series. After these first few playoff rounds, they're selling socially distanced seating in the parks in Texas. And so that means, there are going to be some fans in the stands. So that is very likely, depending on state law and state public health regulations across the country, that kind of thing is probably pretty likely in 2021, meaning there'll be some improvement in that revenue loss. But, I don't, there's not a huge probability that they get full seating in the stands by April. So we'll see. This impact on public health could go on for a long time. So I think there are other. I think I've gotten all the. Oh, here we go. We have another question from Cohen34. Maybe my friend who likes Big Papi also. But how do you feel about the massive increase in home runs and the decrease in small ball? To give this a little context, there's a real transition happening in the game where it's much more about strikeouts and home runs. And my theory is that because baseball analytics in 2008 got so much more information about pitch and pitches from these different pitchers, all of a sudden the analysts really started understanding the right way to pitch different players. They understood the strengths and weaknesses very well of different batters, and they understood very well the strengths and weaknesses of different pitchers. And the smart teams, and there were some leading teams on this, teams that were really good at understanding, this data can direct us to say that this pitcher should pitch this pitch because it's so effective. Now, pitching is always stuff, how fast somebody can throw it. It's movement, how much they can spin it and how it moves on different pitches, and also location, right? So these are the three fundamentals. You can add in sequencing there, your ability to understand the right pitch, pitch by pitch by pitch to attack a certain batter, okay? But all of this data has just accumulated in the past 10 years, and all it's done is made pitchers more effective, more strikeouts. And the resulting phenomena with that was that you really couldn't score runs as easily with small ball. Small ball is worrying about, singles and, bunting runners over to get them in scoring position. With strikeouts being more and more prevalent, small ball became less and less effective. Now, small ball is still important when you need one run, right? When you need one run, you do sometimes have to do effective small ball tactics, and this happens late in the game. Sometimes, there's strategies that you might employ, like moving the runner over with a sacrifice bunt, or trying for a stolen base in the right situation with the pitcher, catcher, and base runner. So, look, all of this is sort of still there as strategy for players, but as pitching got better, as pitching just got more effective, and strikeouts went up because pitching got more effective, then you saw batters say, one thing they can't do is if I crank it, right? I crank a home run, that there's no defense to that, okay? There's no small ball associated with that. That's a run. So home runs went up too because batters changed their strategy as pitchers changed their strategy kind of first. So now there's a change in launch angle that most players are swinging at, trying to match the plane of the ball. Before, there was a little bit less swing really hard in the right launch angle and hit a home run. There was less of that and more of let's make contact. Let's just try to, spray the ball where I want to, just to make singles and line drives. And if you were a fast runner, bunting was always a strategy. It's less and less likely. And teams understand this much, much better because of the improved analytics. So how do I feel about it? I think it's great. I mean, I think it proves that you can be smart about the game. You can take the data and leverage the data to make sense of something. And that's what we're witnessing with the increase in home runs. That's what we're witnessing with the increase in strikeouts. So to me, it's proof of analytics. And since I'm kind of on the side of analytics, in other words, I've studied it, I've taught it, I've trained people to become analysts for teams because I'm on that side of it. I like it because it's proof of analytics in my view. So other people don't, right? I mean, this is my opinion, right? So there's plenty of other people who like small ball and they miss it. I mean, we just have different views of how we watch the game. I enjoy very much that pitcher-catcher decision on how to beat that batter with a great pitch, and varying their pitch types and seeing where they can locate it, and then sometimes just throwing the hammer, boom, and throwing that high-velocity strikeout. These are enjoying times for a baseball fan like me. Others disagree. They like more action. I can't disagree with having more balls in play, more action in the field. That makes sense. But I still like it. Any flavor you give it to me, I'll watch baseball and like it. So good question, Cohen34. Thank you. You should let me know if you're Cohen34 because of Poppy, because we're both big fans of Poppy. All right, more questions. What do you think have been the biggest surprises this season? Well, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, every year you have this emergence of players who you didn't think would do well, and they do well. And we've had players like that this year, and let me think of one. Luke Voigt, we all knew was a good hitter, but once he got full playing time, he became a tough out, a really, really tough out. And when you missed with Luke Voigt, the ball went over the fence. So he's an example of an emerging player who kind of improved his standing. And there are others. And then there's players who didn't perform as well. And in that category, you might put like Christian Yelich this year. And you might put maybe even, Mike Trout had a great year, but Mike Trout didn't have a Mike Trout year. So there's always this going on though, right? So players improve. They're kind of what they expect to do, and then players aren't as good as they're expected to do. Shane Bieber winning the Cy Young, being so dominant, I think that wasn't, people thought that might be a possibility, but he dominated in a great way. So there's all these stories of improving what people expected and maybe not meeting your expectations based on your previous performance. That's normal, and that happened this year again, right? I think what the thing I didn't really anticipate was how cool it was the last week. And this is the 8 teams in a playoff in a league format. Turns out the American League kind of had 8 teams. Pretty early on, 8 teams were really strong, and there was a big gap between the top 8 and the bottom 7 in the American League. And so you kind of knew who the 8 were pretty early on. But the thrilling excitement of the last weekend and so many options of the teams trying to reach those last few playoff spots, that was actually pretty exciting. It's happened before in the wild card, but it just seemed like every game had so many, it went this way and that way and this way and that way and changed so many things. That was unexpected to me. You kind of should have thought that would happen intellectually, but it was actually pretty thrilling to pay attention to that. And the other surprises, I was surprised at how much I liked the extra inning rule. It was kind of cool to watch. And then there's new strategies you have to think about with a runner on second and no outs as the defensive team. You might want to, pitch around a batter who's actually been doing pretty well and put him on first. That's actually not a bad strategy. The run probability difference between first and second is not that much. So now you've got this extra thing like, I can put that batter on first if I don't really want them to hit. So that was a new wrinkle that came out because of the extra inning rules. I kind of like that. I'll give that some more thought of other things that might have come up this year. But it was weird being in the ball. I had the privilege of being in Fenway Park for about 12 or 15 games, watching the Red Sox play to an empty stadium. And so one of the other surprises was how much they had crowd noise pumped in, and they turn it up on a good play for the Red Sox, and then they turn it down to a just sort of normal crowd noise level. But what you never appreciated, except in this situation, was how much the dugouts cheered for their team. You could actually hear that. You could actually hear the away team, because they didn't crank up the volume on the crowd noise. You could hear what they were saying and cheering for when they made a good play. And that was cool. That was a surprise also. That wow, I enjoy hearing, the cheering from the away dugout, which you could never hear in a normal game. So those were at least some of them that off the top of my head. There were probably others, but great question. Thank you. Okay, Cohen gave me a message here, and I'll share it with everybody. I'm a diehard Red Sox fan, and I've always worn 35 because of, I'm not sure what that is. Aortic is a heart thing, but Cohen's favorite players were Pedro and Griffey, and those were 40. Pedro was 45 for most of his career, and Griffey was 24. So, okay, 34. I meant 34. Is the aortic correct? So let's think about that. Anyway, I've got to hold this a little differently now because of my iPad going south. But let's see if there's any more questions. Here's one. Should the Red Sox sign Trevor Bauer? Yeah. It's not my money. Yeah, sign him. I think every team should be thinking that way. Trevor Bauer had a phenomenal year, and he's such a smart, intellectual, analytical pitcher. If you follow baseball, one of the great stories is how quirky and odd this one player is, Trevor Bauer. And the quirkiness is just how independent he is and how he's not a conformist. And he's certainly not a conformist about being analytical with his pitching. There was a great book that we used in a course we taught this past spring on baseball player development, and it covered Trevor Bauer and his thinking and how he thought about pitching, and it was brilliant to watch. Trevor Bauer is a revolutionary in this game, and the effect of his work just being on his own, solo work, not with a team. You know, he worked with a couple outside engineers, and that thing is going to revolutionize baseball for a long time. So, I love Trevor Bauer because he's so analytical and he's quirky and weird, and but he's so effective as a pitcher, and he demonstrated that this year. So, every team, I'm sure, all 30 teams are saying, how can we sign Trevor Bauer? But, Red Sox should be, if they're not thinking that way, they should be. I'm sure they are. They're very smart about these things. So, but should they? Every team should, because he's that good. And I hope the Red Sox get him. That'll make the Red Sox a better team. Absolutely a better team. So, all right, more questions. All right. Oh, okay. This is another CGS question. If I apply ED to arts and sciences and check that I want to be considered for CGS, and I only get into CGS, is my decision still binding? Wow, great question. I have no idea. Sorry about that. I should know these things since I'm on the faculty here, but I have to be honest, I don't know the answer to that. The people in 211, our administrators, will know that question. And if any of our administrators are on this little chat now, maybe you guys can comment on that. I just don't know, Kayla. Best of luck. I can tell you this: my view is CGS within the BU, ecosystem. We do a really good job of having you come to a soft landing within the university. By soft landing, I mean you come here to CGS and you take your electives in different schools, and you might get a sense of, wow, I like that, I don't like that. So if you're not like locked in, I'm gonna be at School of Hospitality, and I know I'm gonna be running a restaurant when I graduate. That's locked into something, and then you should certainly apply to the School of Hospitality. But if you're kind of like, well, maybe I'm not sure, I might try that or this or that, CGS is actually a great place to land because you can take courses in those various schools and colleges, the introductory courses, get a feel for the major, and you know what? You have time to be able to get into those schools and colleges and graduate in 4 years if you come here to CGS. We do a great job with your general ed requirements, which is a new feature now at BU for undergraduates. We have a whole system, a wonderful system called the BU Hub, really exploring how to get skills and talents that the faculty here at BU have decided are so important to emerging graduates like yourself. So that's a little sales pitch for CGS, but I don't know about this rule about early decisions. So good luck finding out the answer. Sorry I can't help you on that. But CGS is a great place. Has a lot of advantages for students, and students appreciate that, the ability to sort of go and look at different schools and colleges within BU. So let's see if there's any other questions. I'm really not good at this, by the way. I'm really fumbling around. I hope this is being somewhat effective for our CGS viewers, but a lot of people have joined. They're waving at me. I don't know if that's recent. I like the waves, though. That's nice. So let's stay on for more questions. One thing that maybe I will say is that it's really been part of the privilege of being on the faculty, any university, but in particular on the faculty here at CGS. Part of the advantage for me as a member of the faculty is, one, we are very much a teaching faculty, and by that I mean people who end up staying here at CGS on the faculty take teaching extremely seriously. If you demonstrate that you're not interested in teaching and you're more interested in a research career, you don't really end up here that much. You really need to expand your research career here, think about what your scholarship is, but you also have to really commit to putting a lot of effort and time into teaching. It's a requirement almost. It's a high bar requirement, but you really have to be serious about it. And that's what I've enjoyed. I've enjoyed the challenge of becoming a better instructor. To me, it's easy to get fired up around my research interests. Teaching courses in my research, it's actually just natural that you have an expertise in something, you know something, and you teach it. The students who sign up are interested too. There's a simpatico thing. The goal here is a general education, and that's more of a broad view of a topic. And in our case, in natural sciences and mathematics, we teach the mathematics courses, intro stats, intro calculus. We also teach, though, intro biology 1, a general biology class. So the challenge there is wonderful for someone like me. The challenge of meeting the needs of non-majors and some majors. Some students are majors in biology and majors in the natural sciences, but some are not. Some are going to go on to other schools and colleges, communications, business, hospitality, English literature or something. So those students, trying to connect those students to and connect with those students around an interest in biology, it's a great challenge, and I love the challenge. And my colleagues here at CGS, the faculty here at CGS, are all on board with this premise that we're here to really just give a great general education to our students. And so I really am privileged to be able to be part of that. And the other privilege is being on this kind of faculty, it allows me to explore my own research. I really feel a sense of academic freedom, a sense that I can do my own research. And our faculty here are so different, and we have so many different interests that it creates a nice variable, a nice, very varied experience level of all the colleagues I have here. So teaching at CGS is a privilege that I just enjoy so much. And I think a lot of the students here get that feel that this is a great place to do some learning before you move on to your other colleges. Remember, this is my view. I hope the dean likes what I've just said, but this is my straight up opinion. I really love being here on the faculty. It allows me time to do my work on scholarship and scholarly work on baseball and baseball analytics. It allows me to meet the challenge of teaching non-majors, teaching them biology. So I have a great setup here, and I hope students enjoy it as much as I do. So, all right, another question. Here's another one. Any teams who are applying analytics and trying to build a contender who aren't quite playoff teams yet? Okay, let's see. Maybe I'll get the whole question another way. Okay, now I'm thumbing through this whole thing. Let me ask the question this way because it's under questions. And, yikes. Where am I going with this? So here's the full question. Any teams who are applying analytics and trying to build a contender who aren't quite playoff teams yet, but you would expect to be in 2 or 3 years. Okay, so let me look at the standings right now, and I'll go through my opinion of these teams. So right now, the Baltimore team and the Red Sox, the Orioles and the Red Sox are terrific analytic teams. bet on the Orioles and the Red Sox too. Those two they didn't make the playoffs, but phenomenal analytics groups. They are going to keep pressing knowledge and pressing the right acquisitions for their rosters through the draft, through trades, through free agency. Expect both those teams to do quite well. The other heavy analytics team that might have a good future, Washington didn't make it this year. They're a great analytics staff, so they'll rebound pretty quickly and make the playoffs very soon. The Giants have a very good analytics staff, emerging analytics staff. You saw them get close this year, but the Giants analytics staff and their front office and everything involved with the Giants is good. I think they're a team to bet on and being a very good team in the future. San Diego, very similar way, but they've made the playoffs. Who else? Yeah, those are the teams I really like their analytics staff. You know, the Mets are interesting. They've got a new owner. He's kind of a quant kind of guy, so he might drive some change in that system into a more of an analytics staff. But for now, we'll see how that emerges or not. But I like those teams as emerging. The Giants, I'll go with the Giants. I'll go with the Nationals. I'll have a quick rebound. I'll go with the Orioles and the Red Sox as playoff teams who didn't make the playoffs this year, but are gonna make the playoffs, and they're gonna have great teams. In terms of teams that have had a lull for a long time, not winning the World Series, the Orioles are kind of in that category. I'd have to think about when they last won the World Series. It's been a while. Someone might know, be able to look it up, but their front office, their analytics group is outstanding, and bet on the Orioles soon. Same thing with the Giants. I'd say the same thing about the Giants. Kind of they hit rock bottom for a while after they won their 3 World Series earlier this decade, but they're going to come back strong. Those are the ones that are, just so strong in analytics. I see a pretty good turnaround pretty quickly. The other teams have strong analytics too, the ones I'm not mentioning. I don't want to discount their group, but I think those two teams who've had a lull in their championships and they're winning lately, the Giants and the Orioles, expect to bounce back. Of course, I mentioned Boston, I mentioned Washington, Philadelphia, the Phillies are in this group too, of teams that are really going to be emerging as rebounds. These are great teams that have done well lately and spent money and built, contenders. But yeah, those they're going to bounce back pretty quickly. I hope that helps. Thanks for the question, CJ. I appreciate that. It's a good question. So I think that's the end of questions. Let me just say thank you for attending this little Q&A session. I think I finally emerged as getting it right. I mean, I don't know. I'm a newbie at this, so I'm trying my best. I think there'll be others of these CGS talks with questions and answers with professors. I'd be glad to do it again. Maybe we can shift up the topic and talk about Darwin or something, and evolution, which is another favorite topic of mine. So thank you so much for attending. Your questions were great. We're getting near the end of the time frame for this. Let me see if I can learn how to wave back. What do I have here? Oh. Yeah, I don't necessarily like any of that. Oh, yikes. Okay, we're gonna stop that. Let's see if I can do something else. Okay, so let's see. Maybe I'm such a noob, but I'd love to share a wonderful picture of our new puppy named Poppy, so that there's a baseball theme there too, and all of our family loves our new puppy so much. So, but I can't navigate this quickly. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna wave back and say thanks so much for your help. If I see a question pop up in the next if I see a question pop up in the next minute or so, I'll go ahead and do it. I want to thank our comms director, or communications director. She had a lot of great questions today for this session, which was good. It kept me, had material for it. But she also has been so patient in me fumbling through this, and she's really emerged as sort of a real help to our college. So thank you, Chelsea. I want to call you out in public here to say that your efforts are great, and we're all very happy. So I'm gonna say goodbye and wave with the camera as opposed to the other way that I'm sort of ignorant about. And thanks so much. So I'm gonna end this. Thanks for all your great questions. And I'm just gonna say the last time, I hope I did it right, Chelsea. I hope this was the right thing you were looking for. I just did my best, okay? All right, talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.